Greetings to the President and Commander-in-Chief of the EFF, the only leader that only does not shake South Africa, but has also shaken Washington, D.C. Greetings to the officials of the EFF, commissars, fighters, fellow South Africans, our African brothers and sisters in Africa and in the diaspora. This year marks 141 years of the infamous Berlin Conference of 1884 and 1885, a pivot moment where the Western powers petitioned Africa without a single African voice or mandate. This event effectively carved the continent into arbitrary borders rooted in colonial ambitions to extract Africa's wealth and the subjugation of African people. This partition was characterized by genocide, slavery, brutal dispossessions, and disregard of Africa as deserving of sovereignty and self-determination for and by its people. The legacy of partitioning Africa is most visible in Africa's resource extraction without local beneficiation, in political systems and governments modeled after colonial administrations, and economic structures that serve external interests and instead of fostering internal prosperity. Today, Africa is defined by the colonial borders, translating into multiple neo-colonial states. It is therefore judicious that we call on African leaders to unite and make Africa one again. As a united Africa and in line with AU's year 2025 theme of 2025 Year of Reparations, Justice for Africans and the People of African Descent through Reparations, we will be positioned to demand reparations for centuries of exploitation, violent mass destruction, and underdevelopment imposed on us by colonial powers. Europe has left gaping wounds that still separate, manifested in poverty, inequality, disease, and foreign exploitation. House Chairperson, please stop that rabble-rouse. The development and wealth of countries like France have been built on the exploitation of Africa. From the colonial era to the present day, France has been looting its former colonies. Even after independence, France maintained control of its former colonies through puppet regimes and military interventions. We must salute the bold historic move by countries such as Niger, Burkina Faso, and Mali. These are examples of African resistance to neo-colonial influence. We can no longer stomach exploitation and interference by colonial powers guised as support and bilateral relations. The future of Africa can no longer be detected by our former colonies and colonial powers defined by the resolution of the ignoble Berlin Conference. Patrice Lumumba warned in 1959 that these divisions, which colonial powers have always exploited and better to dominate us, have played an important role and are still playing that role in suicide of Africa. If these words serve not as a clarion call on our African leaders to reflect on the importance of the unity of Africa on this African month, then the future of Africa is doomed and the idea of a United States of Africa will remain only a dream. We will continue to live under the shade of colonial borders and systems that were never meant for us. The Berlin Conference left Africa in shambles, and to this day, the continent knows no peace. Poverty and inequality are synonymous with Africa. Diseases have wreaked unimaginable havoc across the continent, while so-called investors arrive only to exploit our resources rather than contribute to the development of Africa. House Chairperson, let's be honest, South Africa is too ambitious on the G20 theme of solidarity, equality, and sustainability. We can never have an equal society in South Africa until, while majority of our people are living in squalor and in the informal settlements, townships, and villages that are in the outskirts and far from economic activities and infrastructure development. Equality remains an elusive dream until we can resolve unemployment, drug abuse, and end gender-based violence and femicide. Our economy is owned and controlled and caters only for the rich and exclude the majority of our people in the working class. At the end of November, when we hand over the G20 presidency, South Africa will still be in the same, or if not, far worse position than we currently are, as we have seen from the first quarterly labor force survey for 2025. There is no sustainability that we will achieve without nationalizations of mines, banks, and other strategic sectors of the economy. We still have industries that are monopolized and are controlled in the majority by the rich and those who've got means of production, while ordinary people are kept away. There can never be equality in South Africa while land remains in the hand of the majority. As the EFF were calling for expropriation of South Africa's land without compensation for equal redistribution in order to resolve inequality in our country. House Chairperson, it will be I will not be doing justice if I was to sit down without having mentioned and supporting the Commander-in-Chief of the EFF, that his message that has been consistent, calling for expropriation of South Africa's land without compensation, has now reached the echelons of power, has reached the White House in Washington. Now, Chairperson, what we saw yesterday, it was a mockery to our democracy and a spit on the face of our democracy. We saw the billionaire Johan Rupert trying to represent South Africa. Johan Rupert does not represent me. He was not elected to be a government or a public representative of South Africa. He was there to represent his business interests. So the Commander-in-Chief, you must soldier on. We support you. The rest of Africa support you. Continue to call for United States of Africa. Continue to be a voice of reason for the people of Africa. Africans, let us rise up. Africa, let us unite. Not yet Uhuru.